We'll discuss the significant events and memorable quotes in Act 1 in this video. Shakespeare starts off on the high level before he drops to, as it were, the lower one. He starts off with something that we don't yet really know as a comedy. Theseus and Hippolyta. Theseus, the Duke of Athens, is prominent in Greek mythology. He's best known for slaying the Minotaur, who's pretty familiar to people in general, the bull-headed creature that lived at the middle of the labyrinth. He was helped by Ariadne, married her later, but ended up abandoning her. When he talks about marrying Hippolyta, saying that in 4 happy days there will be another moon, this old moon seems so slow, he's waiting happily for the marriage with which the play will conclude. Hippolyta seems happy also. And then Theseus says a very strange line in Act 1, Scene 1, line 16. Hippolyta, I wooed thee with my sword, and won thy love doing thee injuries, but I will wed thee in another key. He wooed her with his sword. What it actually means is that he won her in battle. Hippolyta's an Amazon. Again, familiar from mythology, the warrior women, the powerful women who have been kind of downgraded into almost a comic book joke with the Wonder Woman character. Usually still today people understand calling a woman an Amazon means she's powerful, athletic. But Theseus defeated her in a fight, and now he's marrying her, and she seems satisfied with that. This is a very curious first presentation of love, and he even admits it, doing her injuries. And sure enough, the nature of love is going to be an important theme in this play, and we have a real conflict involving love immediately afterward. The action of the play really starts with Aegeus, the angry father of Hermia, whom, as we've said already, and as you've shown you know on the quizzes, is dissatisfied because he has chosen a husband for Hermia, Demetrius, and she prefers Lysander. He brings both young men with him, tells them to stand forth, and then says what is really showing his wrong attitude toward her. From lines 41 to 42, I beg the ancient privilege of Athens, as she is mine, I may dispose of her. She belongs to him, almost like an object. Again, we see the treatment of women that echoes the way Theseus won Hippolyta. And Aegeus shows he doesn't really care very much for his daughter by saying that she should either marry this gentleman, meaning his choice, Demetrius, or she should die. Theseus tries to reason with Hermia. Theseus says, line 65, either to die or to abjure the society of men, which means to effectively become a nun, to never marry, or to be killed. And Hermia says that my soul consents not to give sovereignty, meaning that she will not actually obey her father or listen to him. Certainly, Shakespeare presents the situation in a way that makes us sympathize with Hermia. Certainly most modern audiences who would not be familiar with arranged marriage, who would feel that marriage should be for love, will feel that Aegeus is being a harsh father. And Lysander himself points out there is nothing better about Demetrius. So even though Aegeus may be in the right as a father, and as a father I somewhat sympathize with him not wanting his daughter to marry somebody that he dislikes, but Shakespeare, setting up the classic Romeo and Juliet forbidden love idea that I've already talked about, presents a situation where we want Hermia and Lysander to end up together.
How now, my love? Why is your cheek so pale? How chance the roses there do fade so fast?
The light for want of rain, which I could well beteem them from the tempest of my eyes.
I mean, for aught that I could ever read, could ever hear by tale or history, the course of true love did never run smooth, but either it was different in blood.
Oh, hell! To choose love by another's eye.
Or else it stood upon the choice of friends.
Oh, spite! Too old to be engaged, too young.
Hear me, Hermia. I have a widow aunt, a dowager of great revenue, and she hath no child. From Athens is her home remote 7 leagues, and she respects me as her only son. And to that place the sharp Athenian law cannot pursue us. And there, gentle Hermia, may I marry thee.
The course of true love never did run smooth. One of the classic and best-known lines from this play, along with Puck's one about us foolish mortals. Lysander and Hermia are playing out a classic image here, and one that Shakespeare, as I said in the first video, will actually echo with the workman's story of Pyramus and Thisbe, a real old story that he also uses in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Then they make an important decision. They're going to run off away from Athens, away to where Lysander's aunt is, and get married in the places where most of the rest of the play takes place. Wild places, places of magic, of fantasy, of fairies, although they don't know it yet. They don't know what sort of strange magic they're walking into. And this contrast is very important to the play, as it is to some other Shakespeare plays, like As You Like It with the Forest of Arden, and The Tempest with Prospero's magical island that everybody is marooned on. What he's doing is he's contrasting the Athens of power and command and law and justice of Theseus and the kind of night world, not the day world, but the night world of dreams and fantasies and no law and love and all the madness of love reigning that is ruled over by Oberon and Titania.
Oh, teach me how you look, and with what art you sway the motion of Demetrius's heart.
I frown on him, yet he loves me still.
Oh, that your frowns would teach my smile such skill.
Give him curses, yet he gives me love.
Oh, that my prayers could such affection move.
The more I hate, the more he follows me.
The more I love, the more he hateth me.
His folly, Helena, is no fault of mine.
None but your beauty. Would that fault were mine.
Shakespeare, as I noted before, does not consider this conflict enough, so Helena comes in. As these perhaps amateur performers that you saw in the video recognized, there's a lot of difficulty telling Helena from Hermia. At least Lysander and Demetrius have very different names. Helena's and Hermia's share a lot of letters. So what does Shakespeare do? He makes Helena taller, and he makes Helena dark-haired, while Hermia is blonde-haired. Doesn't seem particularly important, but a lot of jokes about Helena's greater height and to some degree about the difference in hair color come up in the great scene in Act 3 where the lovers quarrel at enormous length. Shakespeare throws in a wild card, as it were, with Helena. Someone who, unlike Hermia, loves Demetrius and wants to marry him, but Demetrius does not love her. And so Helena and Hermia, seemingly knowing each other, as we see in these final lines of Act 1, Scene 1, seeming to have been childhood friends, a relationship which will fall apart when the love potion makes everything go wrong, speaks from lines 225 to line 250, a monologue, the first really in the play, about Demetrius and how he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes. And then we have the classic image of love, Cupid, the, of course, mythical love figure, son of Venus with his bow and arrows, shooting at anybody with absolutely no logic. Used to be when I'd teach this in a class full of people, I'd pretend that Cupid's arrow hit one male student, hit one female student. No sense or logic to it. Now they love each other. As she says in 234 and 5, and the theme of the play I think is being stated here, love looks not with the eyes but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Cupid is actually often pictured with a blindfold, like he doesn't even see, or the lover can't even see what is true. Nor hath love's mind of any judgment taste, wings and no eyes, figure unheedy haste. Love makes no sense, at least in the story of this play. Why should Demetrius not love Helena? Why should Hermia not love Demetrius, so that there will be no conflict with her father? Of course, this isn't really love. This is not the love of a shared life together, of shared hardships and experiences, of helping each other, of caring more for the loved one than you do for yourself. This is just momentary infatuation, physical interest, the kind of youthful love that is satirized to some degree in Romeo and Juliet, and that our popular songs are always about. That is the love of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Nick Bottom the Weaver, ready. Now read part-time for and proceed. You, Nick Bottom, are set down for Pyramus. What is Pyramus? A lover? A lover? Himself most gallant for love. Francis Flute the bellows mender. Here, Peter Quince. Flute, you must take Thisbe on. What is Thisbe? The wandering knight? The wandering. It is the lady that Pyramus must love. Hey, let me not play a woman. I have a beard coming. You shall play it in a mask. You may speak as small as you will. May I hide my face? Let me play Thisbe too. Speak in a monstrous little voice. Thisbe. Oh, Pyramus, dear! My lady, dear! No. You must play Pyramus and Flute. You, Thisbe.
After the violent love of Theseus and Hippolyta and the denied love of Hermia and Helena, we seem to be in a rather serious world. There's only been one real joke in Act 1, Scene 1, when Lysander said to Demetrius, "You have the love of Hermia's father," that is, Hermia prefers Demetrius, "you marry him." Otherwise, elevated language, no jokes. Now, what is normally the comic relief in a tragedy, where there's usually a clown or two around, becomes the real comedy of this play, which is going to heighten and build to a, in my mind, hilarious climax when the workers actually put on their disastrous play of Pyramus and Thisbe in Act 5. We meet the workers. We meet the men I've already discussed in the first video. And of course, this is the world of theater. Shakespeare never forgot that. That was his world. He was an actor and playwright. I believe he must have loved it. It comes up again and again in his plays. The famous speech from As You Like It that starts, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merrily players," sums it up. He shows not only a play within a play in Hamlet, but Hamlet giving advice to actors, which is still very good advice centuries later in one of his speeches. And he goes one further in A Midsummer Night's Dream, where there is not only a play within a play, but we see the actors rehearsing. This comes up more in Act 3, but right now, actors are playing actors who are discussing the roles and how they will put on the play almost exactly as the real Midsummer Night's Dream actors would have done. They are led by Peter Quince, a great character, one of my favorites in the play. He was presented as kind of a funny, fussy, cleverer, though silly, probably older man, and by the actors we just saw in the production of A Midsummer Night's Dream that I was in, he was an older, silver-haired man who I think was just right for the part. A real creative figure, even in his funny way, always trying to keep command of what's going on. Notice that the workmen are talking in prose. Notice that there are no poetic lines here. The lines just keep running to the end of the page, wherever it is. It's still Shakespearean language, but at a slightly lower level. Talked already about Bottom and his behavior. They say rather silly things like that the lion and Pyramus and Thisbe, and I'll tell you the whole Pyramus and Thisbe story later, is going to frighten the ladies. There's more about this later, and it's particularly ridiculous because, as I told you, the ladies are Amazons. I talked about how Bottom wants to play all the roles and how poor Flute does not want to play a woman. And in the version I was in, the line was phrased perfectly. I have a beard coming. He's so young that he doesn't quite have the beard that would prevent him from having to play a woman. Then we have Snug. Snug, in fact, is the role that I played. The man who is slow of study. I did it in kind of a slow, stupid voice. I am slow of study. And who is going to play the lion who gets to do his climax in a ridiculous roar, which I made very long and then trailed off into coughing. People can do whatever they like to help make Pyramus and Thisbe silly. But in that scene that ends Act 1, we see how Shakespeare is changing us to a different setting. He's going to change us to yet another setting at Act 2. Here's a little more of Snug and the Lion before we close.
I have the lines part written. Pray if it be give it me, for I am slow of study.
You may do it at the example, for there's nothing but roaring. Oh! May I play the lion's part too?
I will roar. That will make any man's good heart to hear me.
I will roar, and the Duke will say, let him roar again. Let him roar again!
And you shall do it too terribly. You would fright the Duchess and the ladies that they would shriek. And that would hang us all.
That would hang us, every mother's son.